If you're home alone right now, you probably shouldn't be watching this video. Here are 10 true scary home alone stories that will possibly make you very paranoid. My social media will be linked in the description. Subscribe and hit the bell for more content. One night when I was about 12 or 13, my parents were gone for a while and I was just staying up really late, past midnight on my desktop computer waiting for them to come home. Like most people, I had been told a million times not to talk to strangers on the internet, but about half my friends list on MSN were people I had never met before, so I was just chatting with a bunch of them. Out of nowhere, one of my online friends had told me exactly what I had been doing the past hour or so. For example, what I was eating, drinking, playing with, when I had gotten up last, things I hadn't mentioned in the chat before. I instantly got a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My desktop was set up in front of a big window, so as far as I knew, this person I had been talking to that was supposed to live in a different country had found my address and had been watching me through the window somehow. Turns out he had somehow hacked into my webcam. I always left it plugged in even though I had been warned not to do so when I wasn't using it, and he had been frequently watching me through it whenever he wanted. It's been 10 years, and I still have all the cameras on my devices covered in thick duct tape. I was a kid around 10 years old and I was babysitting my 7-year-old sister. We grew up near an insane asylum, and every now and then we'd get an escapee in our yard. They would walk off the grounds and head through the woods towards the nearest big town. They would get about a mile to our place and realize walking 40 miles to that town was probably not happening. So they would ask to use the phone to call and get picked up by the hospital. This happened every now and then, but this was the first time it happened when I was home alone without my parents. The woman who arrived in our driveway wanted me to call the hospital to pick her up, but she also asked me if I had some matches, presumably to light a cigarette or something. I ushered my sister into the house and locked the door as I called. The woman was kind of half screaming, half moaning, "Matches, I need my matches," until they came and picked her up. I'm sure it was just for a cigarette, but it also could have been that she would want to burn us alive or something in that nature, so I decided not to give her any. I had just moved into my first apartment. It was around 8:30 p.m. and I heard the doorknob moving like someone was putting a key in it, turning and knocking. At first, I got really excited that my then boyfriend was home, but then I realized that it was only 8:30 and he was due home from work around 10:30. So I looked out the kitchen window and didn't see his car or anyone's car I had known parked outside. That's when I panicked. The doorknob kept moving for a few more seconds and then stopped. A few minutes later, they had some piece of metal they were sticking between the door trying to open the door. I freaked out at that point and locked myself in the bathroom with a knife and called 911. They tried to pry the door open for about 3 more minutes before they stopped. The police scanned through the area and found an elderly man roaming around with a knife and a crowbar. He actually used to live in that apartment and he wanted his stuff back that we stole when we moved in. I was told he was really delusional. I am so thankful and glad I didn't answer the door once I realized it was no one I knew. To this day, my heart stops when someone knocks on my door. So this took place in my backyard when I was a kid. My mom had made a tree swing by putting a large log across 2 trees that were split at the top in Y shapes. A rope hung down from the middle of the log and there was a little wooden slab to sit and swing on. I was out there swinging away when suddenly, before I knew what had happened, I was pulled backwards and found myself laying on the dirt. I looked up just in time to watch the log that was holding the swing split and come crashing down. I had used the swing a billion times and where I landed wasn't even reachable at maximum swinging capacity. I looked up and no one was around. The feeling of being pulled back is permanently logged into my brain. I live in a cul-de-sac. My bedroom is on the second story. I woke up one night around 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom. I knew we were expecting a lot of snow, so I looked out the bedroom window to see the accumulation. And it was deep, higher than the curb, like a white blanket across the cul-de-sac. I decided to get some water, so I walked downstairs, turned on the light, went to the bathroom and got water. I was downstairs for maybe about 4 minutes. I went back to my bedroom, all lights were out again, and I looked at the snow one more time. Within those 4 minutes, there were now fresh footsteps leading from my house across the cul-de-sac and disappearing behind my neighbor's house. I was asleep in the living room on my day off when a Suburban came crashing through my kitchen door. Dude was drunk and high, had taken his grandfather's Suburban and left a trail of destruction through the neighborhood for 2 blocks. 10 plus vehicles hit my house, 2 mailboxes, and also tore up multiple yards until the SUV was disabled from hitting a Camry. Police ended up busting through the window and dragging him out half naked. In fall 2016, I moved into half of a really old house. It was built in the 1800s, a stone's throw from the original campus of Indiana University, which is now a park filled with homeless people and drug addicts. The owners basically turned it into a weird duplex. My friend had lived in it right before I moved in and he claimed it was haunted, but I didn't really believe him because he was a bit of an odd guy. Anyways, the layout of the house was weird. You walked in the door and were in a living room type space, and then you kept walking and there was a doorway to a bedroom, and past that was the kitchen. No doors, only door inside the apartment was to the bathroom and one that led to the shared basement. So my first night there was uneventful. I was a little uncomfortable because I hadn't lived by myself in a long time and I was just feeling lonely and on edge. I stayed up late and eventually fell asleep, but I woke up again around 3 in the morning. Cliché, I know. What woke me up was what sounded like a group of drummers were drumming on every flat surface of the living room. It went on for a while and I was completely terrified. It was just a cacophony of sounds. After about 2 or 3 minutes, I finally gathered up the balls to get up and check on it. And as soon as I passed the threshold to the living room, it just stopped. Nothing happened for the rest of the night and I didn't get much sleep. Couple days later, a friend was visiting and he was about to leave. We were standing by the front door next to my bookshelf and I told him about how I was having trouble sleeping and the story from the first night. As I was saying this, a book threw itself off the bookshelf and onto the floor 3 feet away. It had to fly past the dresser, the shelf that was perched and landed between the 2 of us. He just gave me a creeped out look and said he had to go. I don't blame him. Eventually, I asked the guy in the other half what was up, as he had lived there for 8 years. He told me that no one stayed longer than a year and they all reported the same crap. For whatever reason, he said nothing had ever happened on his side. Doesn't make any sense, but there it is. It was raining heavily outside. I was sitting on one of the chairs looking out the window, and then suddenly I heard something walking on the floor above me. I thought it was just the sound my mind was creating because, yeah, I was already scared being all alone at home, so I ignored. About 5 minutes later, I hear someone knock on the window. I thought maybe it was just a bird who hit the window or something. But then suddenly, this huge floor lamp fell right on me. And I sat there for a solid 10 minutes trying to understand what exactly just happened. The lamp was always perfectly still, and I still don't understand how it fell. Definitely the creepiest alone moment of my life. One time when I was about 8, back when kids were allowed to run free range in our country neighborhood, I came back early from playing with one of my neighbors and went to sleep on the couch, as I was tired from running rampant. My parents thought I was still at the neighbor's house, so they left to go to the store. When I woke up, it was dark and the power had gone out. I climbed off the couch and started calling for my mom when I started hearing noises from the basement, which I never went down to anyways because it scared the crap out of me at that age. It was scratching noise like something with claws was dragging against the concrete floor. Naturally, I was scared to the bone, so I ran back to the couch, climbed into the hole underneath the cushions, and waited for my parents to get back home. It only took them 20 minutes, but for an 8-year-old scared of being eaten by some basement monster, it felt like hours. It was January in Minnesota. There was about a foot of snow on the ground and my parents were out at a bar and my brother was at a friend's house, but would come back later. I was in my living room and watching TV as I heard a small knocking coming from the basement. So I walked down to investigate all over the basement to find nothing. Not thinking much of it, I walked back upstairs to the living room to continue watching. About 5 minutes later, I hear a loud crash from the basement and what sounded like a door opening. At this point, I was pretty worried. I started to make my way down the stairs, terrified, and as I went down, I thought maybe my brother was home without me knowing, so I called his name. Nothing. I called again, and nothing, so I kept slowly moving down the stairs only to find that there were drawers opened in desks, boxes opened, and a few plastic bins and containers all knocked down and tipped over, but worst of all, my back glass door wide open with footprints leading out the door. I quickly shut it, called my parents, and when they came, my mom called the police while my dad followed them. According to him, they went over my fence and to the road behind my house where they suddenly stopped. My guess is he was picked up, but we and the police never found out if it was planned or just a random house they picked to rob. Absolutely terrifying. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Also, let me know which story out of all 10 you found the scariest, or just comment down below anything you want. My social media and any other links will be listed in the description. This is it, and I will see you in my next video.